Hi everyone! So itutuloy na natin ngayon ang discussion ng adjusting process. So tapos na natin yung mga accruals. Pumunta naman tayo sa mga deferrals. Simulan natin sa prepaid expenses or yung mga expenses paid in advance. So yung kapag yung mga companies nag-record ng payments of expenses in advance that will benefit more than one accounting period, they will record an asset called prepaid expenses or prepayments. Ilan sa mga common examples ng prepayments ay supplies, prepaid insurance, and prepaid rent. So sa pag-record ng adjusting entry sa mga prepaid expenses, nakadepende siya kung anong method ang ginamit sa pag-record ng prepayment. It's either asset method or expense method. So sa asset method, upon payment, ang na-record ni company is an asset. So debit prepayments and credit cash. Then bakit need to ng adjusting entry? Kasi at the end of the accounting period, dapat ma-record yung portion na ginamit since nag-record tayo ng asset nung nagbayad tayo. So kapag hindi tayo nag-adjust, magiging overstated or sobra yung asset natin kasi may portion sa ni-record natin upon payment na gamit na. At understated naman yung expenses kasi wala tayong ni-recognize na nagamit na. So upon adjustment, para madagdagan ang expense account, magde-debit tayo ng expense. Tapos magki-credit tayo ng asset para mabawasan naman yung dinebit natin kanina. While sa expense method naman, yung account na dinebit upon payment is expense. So kaya tayo naman mag-a-adjust sa expense kasi sobra or overstated ang expense natin since hindi naman lahat ng prepayment ay expense dahil may mga unused portion pa. So yung unused portion na yun, ang dapat nating i-record din as asset kasi kulang or understated ang asset dahil nilagay natin lahat sa expense. So upon adjustment, magde-debit tayo ng asset para ma-record yung unused portion ng prepayment natin and magki-credit tayo ng expense para mabawasan yung dinebit natin kanina. Acceptable naman ang parehong method, pero dapat consistent na method ang gagamitin. So to illustrate yung pag-record ng prepaid expenses, magbigay tayo ng mga examples. So Inos Flower Shop started business on February 1, 2021. On February 2, 2021, the company purchased office supplies amounting to 8,000. So yung entry to record ng purchase of office supplies under asset method ay debit office supplies 8,000 and credit cash 8,000. While sa expense method naman, it's debit office supplies expense 8,000 and credit cash 8,000. For convenience, hindi nare-record ng mga companies yung daily usage ng office supplies. Ang ginagawa na lang, isinaalam na lang yung office supplies na hindi pa nagagamit at the end of the period, tapos yung difference ng available supplies sa natitirang supplies, yung ang amount na nagamit during the period. So sa asset method, since ang initial entry natin ay 8,000 sa asset, and ang natira na lang sa asset ay 2,000, so may expense tayo na 6,000. So to adjust yung prepayment natin, ang adjusting entry natin sa February 28 under asset method ay debit office supplies expense na 6,000 to recognize yung used portion ng prepayment and credit office supplies 6,000 para mabawasan yung office supplies na una nating ni-record. So kapag hindi na prepared tong adjusting entry, magiging overstated yung office supplies kasi dapat 2,000 na lang yung natira, tapos understated naman yung office supplies expense kasi hindi nakapag-record ng expense na 6,000. So under expense method naman, since may 2,000 pang natitira na office supplies and ang ni-record natin is 8,000 lahat as expense, so sobra yung expense natin ng 2,000 kaya dapat natin bawasan yung expense. Tapos, dapat din natin i-record yung natitirang 2,000 sa asset. So, ang adjusting entry natin sa February 28 ay debit office supplies 2,000 para i-recognize yung 2,000 na unused portion ng office supplies and credit office supplies expense 2,000 para bawasan yung expense na nirecord natin kanina. So, kapag hindi na-record tong adjusting entry na ito, overstated ang office supplies expense kasi hindi nabawasan yung office supplies expense. Tapos, yung office supplies naman understated or kulang kasi walang 2,000 na na-record as asset. So, kahit anong method dyan ang gamitin, ang ending pa rin is ang office supplies na nasa asset ay 2,000, tapos ang office supplies expense na nasa expense account ay 6,000. So tapos na tayo sa prepaid expenses. Pumunta naman tayo sa unearned revenue. When companies receive cash bago pa man yung services ay ma-perform, they record a liability account called unearned revenues. In other words, yung company, meron na siyang performance obligation or liability to transfer a service to one of its customer. Ilan sa mga examples ng mga unearned revenue ay rent, magazine subscriptions, and customer deposits for future services. So sa pag-record ng adjusting entry sa mga unearned revenue, nakadepende siya kung anong method ang ginamit sa pag-record ng unearned revenue. It's either liability method or revenue method. So sa liability method, yung account na kinredit upon receipt ng cash is liability kasi hindi pa naman nagagawa yung performance obligation. So debit cash and credit unearned revenue. So upon adjustment, magde-debit tayo ng liability para mabawasan yung kinredit natin kanina at mag-credit tayo ng revenue to recognize yung revenue para sa portion na na-earn na natin. While sa revenue method naman, yung account na i-credit sa date of collection is revenue, tapos upon adjustment, magde-debit tayo ng revenue para mabawasan yung dinebit natin kanina dahil hindi pa lahat ay earned portion at mag-credit tayo ng liability to recognize yung liability for the unearned portion. So para ma-illustrate natin yung pag-record ng unearned revenue, magbigay tayo ng example. Konoha received 120,000 from its tenant occupying an office space in the building. The amount is for 1-year rental beginning month of April 2021 paid in advance by the tenant. So upon receipt ng cash from tenant, ang ire-record ni Konoha under liability method ay debit cash 120,000 and credit unearned rent revenue 120,000 kasi meron pa siyang performance obligation dun sa rent. While under revenue method naman, debit cash 120,000 and credit rent revenue 120,000 kasi under dito, lahat na ng rent ay kita na ni Konoha. So assuming na si Konoha ay annual accounting period niya ends on December 31, 2021. So ang amount na na-earn na ni Konoha mula doon sa na-receive niya na cash ay for 9 months rent. So from April to December. So para ma-compute yung amount earned, so 120,000 divided by 12 months times 9 months kasi from April to December. So yung amount na na-earn na ay 90,000 and yung hindi pa na-earn ay 30,000. So under liability method, alam natin na 30,000 pa yung unearned portion. So yun ang amount ng liability as of December 31. Since 120,000 yung nirecord kanina, kailangan bawasan yung liability kaya mag-debit tayo ng unearned rent revenue na 90,000 kasi meron pang 30,000 na unearned portion. Tapos mag-credit tayo ng revenue na 90,000 kasi yun talaga yung amount na na-earn. So kapag hindi na-record tong adjustment, ang liability ay overstated kasi hindi nabawasan yung 120,000 kasi dapat 30,000 na lang siya. At understated naman yung revenue kasi hindi nakapag-recognize ng 90,000 na earned portion. Tapos, sa revenue method naman, since alam natin na 90,000 yung revenue na na-earn at hindi 120,000, babawasan natin yung rent revenue na nirecord kanina by debiting rent revenue 30,000, tapos magre-recognize tayo ng liability na 30,000 kasi yun ang portion na unearned pa din. Kapag hindi na-record itong adjusting entry, ang rent revenue ay overstated kasi sobra yung ni-record na revenue na 30,000 at understated naman ang liability ng 30,000 kasi hindi pa na-record yung unearned portion. So kahit na anong method ang gamitin, ang amount ng unearned rent revenue as of December 31 ay yung 30,000 na hindi pa na-earn at yung amount naman ng rent revenue sa income statement ay 90,000. Next naman is yung mga depreciation ng property, plant, and equipment. Yung mga assets na may long useful life ay tinatawag na property, plant, and equipment or fixed assets. Ilan sa mga examples nito ay yung land, building, equipment, furniture, and fixtures at iba pa. Dahil itong mga assets na to is expected na gagamitin for many years, nire-record siya as asset rather than an expense on the date it is acquired. So yung matching principle, nire-require niya na dapat yung portion ng cost ng PPE be recorded as expense in each period na nagiging useful siya. So yung process na pag-allocate ng cost ng asset to expense over its useful life ay tinatawag na depreciation. So yung depreciation during the period ay isang expense. Tapos lahat ng depreciation na nare-recognize ay mapupunta sa account na accumulated depreciation na binabawas natin usually sa cost ng mga PPE. So basically, ang adjusting entry natin kapag nagde-depreciate tayo ng PPE ay debit depreciation expense, name ng asset, and credit accumulated depreciation, then name ng asset. Merong iba't ibang method sa pag-compute ng depreciation gaya ng straight line method, sum of the years digit method, declining balance method, at units of production method. Pero ngayon, ang i-discuss lang muna natin is yung straight line method. So sa straight line method, ito yung mga factors na dapat natin i-consider. So first is yung asset cost or yung purchase price plus other direct cost incurred in acquiring and bringing the assets to its intended use. So ito yung mga pinambili at yung iba pang mga cost such as freight and installation cost. Next naman is yung estimated residual value or tinatawag din na salvage value or scrap value. So ito yung mga amount na pwedeng ibenta kapag nagamit mo na ng husto yung asset. Then lastly is yung estimated useful life or yung number of years or units na yung asset can be used. So, ang formula sa pag-compute ng depreciation using straight line method ay depreciation expense is equal to depreciable cost over useful life, then yung depreciable cost is equal to cost minus residual value, then kapag tinatanong ay magkano ang book value ng PPE, so it is cost minus accumulated depreciation. So, to illustrate, magbigay tayo ng example. So on January 1, 2021, XYZ company bought equipment for a total cost of 500,000. Its estimated useful life is 10 years and the estimated residual value is 50,000. The company uses the straight line method of computing depreciation. How much is the depreciation expense for the year 2021 and what is the book value of the asset for the year 2021? So, upon purchase ng equipment, yung journal entry is debit equipment 500,000 and credit cash 500,000 para ma-record yung binili nating equipment. Tapos, upon adjustment naman, ang entry natin ay debit depreciation expense 45,000 and credit accumulated depreciation 45,000. So, paano na-compute yung 45,000? So, 500,000 which is yung cost ng equipment minus 50,000 yung residual value. So, ang depreciable cost is 450,000 divided by 10 which is yung estimated useful life in years. So, ang ating depreciation expense during the year is 45,000. So, paano naman natin mako-compute yung book value ng asset? So, cost na 500,000 less accumulated depreciation na 45,000. So, ang book value as at December 31, 2021 ay 455,000. Ang last na i-discuss natin is yung uncollectible accounts or bad debts which relates doon sa mga receivables na maaaring hindi na makolekta. Hindi kasi may iwasan na yung ibang accounts receivable become uncollectible for various reasons. For example, dahil sa COVID-19, yung customer hindi na makakabayad dahil sa downturn ng economy. O kaya naman yung customer ay natanggal sa trabaho or na ospital. So para makapag-comply sa matching principle, companies usually prepare adjusting entry to recognize yung mga ganitong anticipated loss arising sa mga uncollectible accounts. So yung proforma entry natin para ma-take up yung bad debts expense is debit bad debts expense or doubtful accounts expense and credit allowance for bad debts or allowance for doubtful accounts. Bad debts expense ay tinatawag din na uncollectible accounts expense or doubtful accounts expense. So yung credit sa allowance is nakadepende sa kung anong account ang ginamit as expense. So kung bad debts expense, dapat allowance for bad debts. Then kapag doubtful accounts expense, dapat allowance for doubtful accounts. So to illustrate, magbigay tayo ng examples. On December 31, 2021, the company has outstanding accounts receivable of 400,000. The company estimates that 4% of these receivables may not be collected. A. Assuming allowance for bad debts has no balance, how much is the bad debts expense to be recognized? B. Assuming allowance for bad debts has balance before adjustment of 10,000 credit, how much is the bad debts expense to be recognized? C. Assuming allowance for bad debts has balance before adjustment of 10,000 debit, how much is the bad debts expense to be recognized? So doon muna tayo sa letter A. So yung ending balance ng allowance for bad debts at the end of the year amounts to 16,000, which is 400,000 na outstanding accounts receivable times yung 4% na estimate of these receivables which might not be collected. Then since wala daw beginning balance yung allowance for bad debts, so ang magiging adjustment natin is 16,000 para mag-arrive dun sa 16,000 na ending balance ng allowance for bad debts. So ang magiging adjusting entry natin ay debit bad debts expense 16,000 and credit allowance for bad debts 16,000. Allowance for bad debts has a normal balance of credit kasi isa siyang contra asset account. So, yung mga contra account, ito yung mga account na ibabawas dun sa related account. So, kapag tinanong, magkano ang net realizable value ng receivable as of December 31, 2021, ang gagawin natin is to deduct yung accounts receivable na 400,000 dun sa ending balance ng allowance for bad debts which is 16,000. So, ang net realizable value ng receivable ay 384,000 which is yung amount na ipipresent natin sa balance sheet. Sa B naman, dapat i-consider natin yung balanse ng allowance for bad debts before adjustment na 10,000 credit. So same ng information na ending balance ng allowance is 16,000. Pero may beginning balance daw na 10,000 credit. So ang kulang na lang para maging 16,000 yung allowance for bad debts is 6,000. So yun ang magiging adjustment natin. So ang adjusting entry natin ay debit bad debts expense 6,000 and credit allowance for bad debt 6,000. So paano naman kapag may beginning balance yung allowance na debit? Nagkakaroon ng debit balance in allowance before adjustment kapag yung provision ay di sapat dun sa estimated uncollectible receivable para makover yung receivable na ni-write off. So same information na ending balance ng allowance is 16,000. Pero may beginning balance na 10,000 debit. So ang kulang para maging 16,000 yung allowance for bad debts is 26,000. Kasi 26,000 na credit minus 10,000 na debit is equal to 16,000 na credit. So ang ating adjusting entry ay debit bad debts expense 26,000 and credit allowance for bad debts na 26,000. To apply what we have learned, magbigay tayo ng problem na we will solve sa ating next episode. Prepare the adjusting entries on December 31, 2020, the end of annual accounting period based on the following independent data. The company has 3 employees earning 350 per day, 400 per day, and 450 per day respectively. Payday is every Saturday for 6-day work week that begins on Monday, assuming December 31 is Thursday. Number 2. Notes receivable has a balance of 120,000 received from a customer in settlement of open account on November 16, 2020. It is a 90-day 12% note. No interest has been taken on this note. Use 360 days. Number 3. The insurance expense account had a debit balance on December 31, 2020 of 72,000, representing premium for 2-year fire insurance policy effective October 1, 2020. Number 4. Rent income was credited for 36,000 on November 1, 2020, representing 9 months rental collected in advance. Number 5. Machinery per general ledger on December 31, 2020 shows a balance of 372,000. Machinery acquired during the year was 52,000 on April 1, 2020. All machinery is to be depreciated at the rate of 25% per annum. Number 6. The ledger of Costello Company at the end of the current year shows accounts receivable 110,000, sales revenue 840,000, and sales returns and allowances 20,000. A. If allowance for doubtful accounts has a credit balance of 2,100 in the trial balance, journalize the adjusting entry at December 31, assuming bad debts are expected to be 10% of accounts receivable. B. If allowance for doubtful accounts has a debit balance of 200 in the trial balance, journalize the adjusting entry at December 31, assuming bad debts are expected to be 6% of accounts receivable. So if you like this video or if this video helped you, please give a thumbs up and subscribe for more episodes. Thank you!